On behalf of Bishop Michael J. Bransfield, I express deep gratitude for the opportunity to address the Select Committee. I'm not an expert on poverty. I'm just a simple country preacher. But I do know that the Bishop and the Diocese of Wheeling-Charleston are gravely concerned about the plight of the poor and working poor in West Virginia. As you likely know, the Diocese of Wheeling-Charleston is the second largest provider of services to the poor in the state, second only to the Department of Health and Human Resources. Having followed this committee's proceedings, I could easily echo much of what you've already heard. But having witnessed these past few weeks surrounding the election of Pope Francis, the intense interest in the Catholic Church from people all over the world, many of whom are not Catholic, I'd instead like to offer a brief overview of Catholic social teaching. And I take this approach because no decision that we make is formed in a moral vacuum. And knowing this, we can choose to consciously build our decisions from a solid moral framework. So what I describe to you this morning is the best systematic approach that I know of. The Catholic Church's social teaching is a rich treasure of wisdom about building a just society and living lives of holiness amidst the challenges of modern society. Catholic social teaching has been articulated through a tradition of documents from popes, from councils such as the Second Vatican Council, and from individual bishops. For example, the document you have in your packet from Bishop Bransfield is his most current contribution to the Catholic social canon. That pastoral letter, Setting Children Free, Loosening the Bonds of Poverty in West Virginia, speaks to our issue today. Of course, the depth and richness of this tradition can best, can best be understood through direct reading of Catholic social teaching, and I wouldn't dare expect you to become scholars of the Catholic tradition. Instead, in this brief reflection, I'll highlight 7 key themes that are at the heart of our Catholic social tradition, and I promise I'll be brief. First and foremost, the Catholic Church proclaims that human life is sacred, and that the dignity of the human person is the foundation of a moral vision for society. This belief is the foundation underlying all the principles of our social teaching. We believe that every person is precious. People are more important than things, and that the measure of every institution is whether it threatens or enhances the life and dignity of the human person. Secondly, is the centrality of family, community, and participation. God made us not only sacred, but also social. How we organize our society in economics and politics, in law and policy, directly affects human dignity and the capacity of individuals to grow. Marriage and family are the central social institutions that must be supported and strengthened, not undermined. We believe people have a right and a duty to participate in society, seeking together the common good and well-being of all, especially the poor and vulnerable. The third principle we can call rights and responsibilities. The Catholic tradition teaches that human dignity can be protected and a healthy community be achieved only if human rights are protected and responsibilities are met. Therefore, every person has a fundamental right to life and a right to those things required for human decency. Corresponding to these rights, we each have duties and responsibilities to one another, to our families, and to the larger society. Fourth is a preferential option for the poor, because a basic moral test of society is how our most vulnerable members are facing. In a society marred by deepening divisions between rich and poor, our tradition recalls the story of the Last Judgment and instructs us to put the needs of the poor and vulnerable first. Fifth is the dignity of work and the rights of workers. Work is more than a way to make a living. It is a form of continuing participation in God's creation. If the dignity of work is to be protected, then the basic rights of workers must be respected. The right to productive work, to decent and fair wages, to the organization and joining of unions, to private property, and to economic initiative. The sixth principle we can call solidarity, or the notion that we are all one human family. Whatever our national, ethnic, racial, economic, or ideological differences, we are our brothers and sisters' keepers, wherever and whoever they may be. Loving our neighbor has global dimensions in a shrinking world, and at the core of the virtue of solidarity is the pursuit of justice and peace. Pope Paul VI taught that if we want peace, we must work for justice. And the final principle in Catholic social teaching that I would underscore is care for creation. We show our respect for our Creator by our care for His creation. Care for the earth is a requirement of our faith. We're called to protect people and the planet, living our faith in relationship with all of God's creation. Gentlemen, you now understand what took me 25 years to learn. The Catholic Church not only has a tradition of moral teaching which spans the past 3 centuries, but it uses this amazing body of work to continuously develop and refine a set of principles on which all Catholics, in fact anyone, can rely for guidance to live lives of service and even holiness before God and neighbor. These principles belong to humankind, not just Catholics. They are so much more than warm, fuzzy sentiments or a liberal or conservative platform. Living out these principles is hard work, but these principles do work because this is how God made us. We are made to care about and for each other. We are made to care for the planet and everyone on it, starting at home. And so we'd like to remind all of our brothers and sisters that our decisions are never made in a moral vacuum. We can choose to make decisions simply by instinct or whim, or by a process of thoughtful reflection based on a solid moral framework. The work of the Select Committee on Children in Poverty is important. It's very important. And we again express our appreciation for the work you're doing and for the invitation to address you. Our own reflections convince us that there are many, many things in the state of West Virginia that we can and should do to best serve the poor and working poor and their children. An important and achievable goal is Medicaid expansion, which would provide health insurance for at least 120,000 of West Virginia's working poor, and of which Bishop Bransfield has commented and communicated with the governor. We should also protect and increase funding for efforts to prevent family violence in West Virginia, including the Children's Trust Fund, child advocacy centers, and domestic violence programs. And we should protect child care benefits for working families. Those are but a few among many initiatives West Virginia can ensure for the health and security of its citizens. The Diocese of Wheeling-Charleston and Catholic Charities West Virginia encourages this body continue your good and hard work. Whenever hard decisions have to be made, we implore you to keep the most vulnerable always in mind. We have it on impeccable faith that you will be blessed 100-fold. Thank you for your attention.